Hello and welcome once again to the Blueprint, Canada's Conservative podcast with a special New Year's Eve edition. We are going to take a look at the good, the bad, the ugly of 2024. So please like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. To do that and much, much more, we have Tom Kmiec, the Member of Parliament for Calgary-Shepherd, and Kelly McCauley, the Member of Parliament for Edmonton Mall, our annual Gab Fest here.
Edmonton West, Edmonton Mall.
Sorry, Edmonton West, Edmonton Mall. I apologize. I get confused. But we do this every year. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's our annual review.
It feels like we just did this, but I guess
it
the year's gone by fast.
Yeah, it has gone by way too fast. So why don't we start with, hopefully, the good news, if there was any in 2024, politically speaking. So the good news, I'm going to say probably the scandals that we as the opposition have been able to expose. I don't think the good is the scandals themselves because there were a lot. They cost a lot of money, a lot of fraud and abuse and waste. But us exposing them, that's an amazing team doing their job.
Yeah, that's right. I think Canadians send us to Parliament to do work, and many people ask us, like, what is it that you actually do there? Well, our job is to review the paperwork, the government documents are tabled, compare them, like, do they match with reality, and do a lot of digging. And then when you do the digging, then you discover things like the Sustainable Development Technology Canada Fund, SDTC, was being used as a gross slush fund to funnel money to liberal insiders. And once you start going back several years, you realize that this has been ongoing for a long time. That's what's basically paralyzed Parliament now, because the Liberals refuse to give us the 30,000 unredacted pages that still remain. We passed a motion back in June to produce them. We've had the two Randys trying to figure out the member for Edmonton Centre, the former minister now of ESDC, on when and where and how was he telling the truth? Who was this other Randy at the business that he was involved in and part owner of at one point? And there's been a sequence of these. It's big and small. There's also the SIBA loans. An Auditor General report came out about this loan program that was created during the pandemic. And that doesn't happen by accident. It's people, members of Parliament or staff, working away, doing the access to information requests, filing what are called order paper questions, written questions. And it's a lot of work that Kelly does on what he calls, I think, affectionately, the Mighty Ogo Committee.
The Mighty Ogo.
Is to discover the truth, right?
Yes.
That's what matters here.
Exactly. And you've done a lot of work, Kelly.
Yeah, and Tom is right. Like, it shines a light on government operations, and people comment sometimes, why are you picking on the Liberals? Why are you focusing so much on the scandals? But the reason we do this is to stop government from doing this. Again, with the Green Slush Fund out of Industry Canada, $400 million of taxpayers' money going from Liberal-appointed board members granting money to their own companies. We, by exposing it, have brought it to a stop. They've actually defunded this program and taken that money away. So it stops their ability to waste taxpayers' money. We saw that with the Net Zero Accelerator, where the government spent $8 billion gave it to big multinational companies for projects that did not even reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Companies that we found had actually turned around and sent money to ISIS in Syria. Some companies that are inflicting horrific environmental damage, both Canada and abroad, were getting taxpayers' money for programs, hundreds of millions for programs they're not even entitled to. We got that program shut down as well. So there is a purpose behind exposing this corruption and other malfeasance within the government.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm old enough to remember, I know, Kelly, you certainly are, that a glass of orange juice cost a Conservative cabinet minister their job.
Yeah, the $60 orange juice.
Yeah. And now we're $400 million, we're this $100 million, and they just keep getting away with it one after the other.
Yeah. One of the biggest recipients of the Green Slush Fund was a company called Cycle Capital, which was the owner was a partner with the current environment minister.
Right.
Stephen Guilbeault, the man who wants to shut down our oil and gas industry, taxpayers' money getting funneled into his company. When we brought his partner in to Public Accounts Committee, her comment was, well, they barely profited personally from it. And almost like the Liberal attitude is, well, there was only a bit of corruption, so that's okay. And it begs the question, like, what level of corruption is now not okay with this government? If funneling money into your own company is now allowed, what's
Right?
You know, what's the broken window theory? What's the bar set now for corruption? And I would say we haven't found out yet from this Liberal government.
Yeah, I think to wrap it up, I would say, like, it's not good that there is the corruption, but what is good is that it takes time when you start diving into documents with staff and working with other MPs to try and figure out and then follow the leads, follow exactly what happened. And we're in full swing right now, and it's reflected in the polls, it's reflected in our inboxes, I think, and in the calls I get. Are more people coming forward pointing at malfeasance and corruption, more whistleblowers willing to talk because they know there'll be a resolution, this will be made public, more journalists are starting to write about it. In a lot of ways this year, we've done the job of a lot of journalists, which is the investigative component, is figuring out how government works. And it's reflected both in Parliament and the work that we do. So when people read their newspapers digitally, when they're scrolling in their feeds and they're seeing like there's a more government waste here and government waste there, well, the reason is it's members of Parliament are doing their jobs, holding the government accountable, making sure that when they do blow billions and billions of dollars, that there is actually a next step, which is to ask, like, where did you spend it? Who did you give it to? Did you achieve your goals? Yes or no? And then we can report back to the taxpayers of Canada, because this is their money. Like every dollar that is taxed or that is borrowed, is the taxpayers of Canada responsible for it at the end of the day. So I hope they've seen this year that we've done our jobs. We've delivered what we said we would do.
Yeah, I agree with you. So that's the good. Now let's go to the bad. And I got through that segment with an age joke and no comeback. It just flew under the radar. I was quite impressed.
HR will be in contact with you for your ageism a bit later.
Thank you. Well, I knew something was going to happen. All right, the bad. How about Jagmeet Singh? Okay, he's ripping up his deal. He's flexing.
There's a thesaurus I see behind you. I almost need to look up pathetic.
Yes.
I've run out of words to describe the performance of the leader of the NDP. Bad doesn't quite encapsulate it, but it's a good start.
Let's queue up cut one. We have a video of him with his big announcement. He's got his jacket off. He means business now. Play cut one.
Today, I notified the Prime Minister that I've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement. Justin Trudeau has proven again and again he will always cave to corporate greed. The Liberals have let people down. They don't deserve another chance.
But they do get other chances.
That's right. And
They get many
chances. That's right. And then we saw like that video was made kind of scandalously, I think, is they were trying to save themselves during the Manitoba by-election. And they squeaked it right through and got one of their NDP candidates elected, I think, based on this rushed announcement. And afterwards, they continued voting with the Liberal government on every single confidence vote. And it goes beyond confidence vote. People back home need to understand, at committees, they coordinate together. During the meetings of what's called the House leadership team, so kind of when they organize the parliamentary work, they're working side by side with the Liberals. And they've never let it go of basically those tassels. And they still look to Trudeau and they look to his cabinet and look to the Liberals as the source of what is the good and what they should be doing. So the fake performance in question period, these fake 14-second video clip. And we even used his own words, the words from that exact video, to make them vote on it. Like, do they actually mean what they say? They voted against it. Like, it's completely ridiculous. His leadership is ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. I don't think there's ever been an opposition party in Canada that has rolled over so many times on behalf of a minority government and just at the whim and call of the Prime Minister. Like, that's just completely ridiculous.
After everything that's been exposed that we touched on in the good, right? Like, it's unbelievable.
No, it is remarkable. Tom's right. Like, in committee, the NDP have voted with the Liberals to shut down investigation of the Green Slush Fund, the CEBA loan, where $3.5 billion so far that we can find out has been defrauded from taxpayers. We have 2 million people a month visiting food banks, but the government is happy to send $3.5 billion to people not eligible for the CEBA loans, and the NDP worked with the Liberals every time to shut down investigations, everything they can get away with. And it's funny in the House watching them rage, attacking the Liberals, and then seconds later vote to prop up the Liberal government.
Exactly.
So in the dying days of Parliament, we had the fall economic statement that was supposed to be read by the finance minister. A few hours before, we had the resignation of the housing minister. Awful housing minister, even worse, immigration minister, and the finance minister who was supposed to read it. Then the next person in line to read it was the industry minister, who said no thanks. The one after that was the Randy minister. Which one?
Which one?
Which one?
Randy?
The employment minister. That he couldn't do that. So Karina Gould, the House Leader, just came down and basically table dropped the fall economic statement. But now, so we have a video, cue up cut 2, of Jagmeet Singh being asked, despite the fact that the Liberal caucus doesn't even support the Prime Minister, will he do that as well? Play cut 2.
Will you declare no confidence in the Liberal government as soon as possible?
All tools, all options are on the table. People are hurting, people are struggling, and so all options are on the table. That means everything is possible. But what is clear, given what we have seen, Justin Trudeau and a Liberal government that are focused on themselves, they are infighting at a time when people cannot even do their groceries. They can't even find homes that are affordable. And we've got the threat of Donald Trump and 25% tariffs that mean hundreds of thousands of jobs are at risk. Because of that, I'm saying very clearly that Justin Trudeau has to resign. All options on the table. Thank you very much. Merci. Thank you.
He just made the case for non-confidence. Right there, he just made it.
He just made it, yeah.
I noticed how fast he was able to run.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, the best excuse, he just said it.
He is not eligible for his pension till February. After this, the NDP House Leader, Peter Julian, made an announcement that they would vote against the government in February.
But it's not about his pension, they keep saying, right?
Yes, of course.
that's
Not
right.
now,
Yeah.
not January. Just coincidence, I'm sure.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Just after that.
I noticed how quickly he avoided the questions. It's rare that a reporter puts a direct question to him.
It is.
And she asked it, and he wouldn't answer it, and then he ran away very quickly before he'd be cornered once more. And on everything we've seen so far, even their performance in the dying days of this parliament, right before the Christmas break started, they were still making every excuse possible on why they wouldn't bring down the government. Plus, I noticed there, he never said he had no confidence in the government.
That's right. With the Prime Minister.
He just said a bunch of words, which he said it before. We made him vote on it. He wouldn't vote for his own words. His MPs wouldn't vote for his own words. That the NDP caucus, that all those members of parliament, they are working for only one Canadian, and that's Jagmeet Singh and his pension. And that's it. This entire term, this fall session has proved that they're in it for only one man, and it's only his personal interests that matter to them. And it being the case that his interests align very closely with Justin Trudeau's interests. And so these two guys have basically been this deal that they've made, that they've ripped up, made again, made up, taped it back together again. And now he's calling for him to resign. It's completely fake. It's unreal. It's hard to believe.
It's remarkable. Liberal cabinet ministers have shown more vocal opposition
exactly.
and lack of confidence in Trudeau
It's true.
than Jagmeet.
Yeah.
Very true.
And the rumors
Again.
are about 60 Liberal MPs have now called for the Prime Minister to resign. They had that emergency caucus meeting on the last Monday of this session. A caucus meeting, I'll add, that you could actually see into the
which is
room because
weird.
cameras were there and the blinds weren't drawn down. That's just unbelievable. It just shows you how chaotic this place has become, how everything's fallen apart, everything is broken, and they're the ones that broke it.
Oh, 100%. So, unfortunately, it does get worse as we move on to the ugly part. State of Canada's economy. We have capital fleeing this country left, right, and center. We have the unemployment rate going up. We can throw up another stat. Basically, 6 years of no growth in the Canadian economy. 6 years of no. The biggest job creation engine in Canada right now is the government.
Yeah.
And the government doesn't actually produce anything or make anything go quicker.
Yeah.
That is the state of Canada's economy. That's the ugly, in my opinion.
It is. It's a couple points. 6 years of no growth in the per person productivity, per person wealth creation in this country. The other point, when Harper was in charge, Canadian GDP wealth creation per person was pretty much equal to the US. We have now fallen 52% behind the US. Canada, I think, is about 52,000. The Americans are at 82. They have leaped ahead massively. And this is not numbers. This is the wealth of the nation.
Yep.
The difficulty Canadians are having affording housing, groceries, it all relates back to how much wealth we've created. The Liberals have focused on virtue signaling, spending, but nothing for infrastructure, nothing to improve the lives of Canadian and our ability to generate wealth. It's redistribution rather than wealth creation.
Absolutely.
I think the thing that's most worrying is I was looking at a columnist describing like the GDP growth numbers. Is if you look at in the Harper years, we were keeping up with the Americans. As they were growing, we were growing.
Yeah.
So there was no huge wealth disparity. And now when you look at it, I think it's an 18% gap. So we've fallen like very anemic growth, while the Americans have just been growing. And that's where now you have this huge gap in GDP per capita. And our unemployment numbers are ticking up almost every single month. You see more and more people are unemployed, losing their jobs, or being told your job ends in 3 to 4 to 5 months and we're not going to extend your contracts. And I'm seeing more of that in my riding, more of that when I'm traveling around, more people who are in dire straits because they don't have any savings left in order to pay next month's bills. And everything's gone up. Carbon tax has gone up. Carbon tax is going up
again.
Another $15 next year per carbon ton, April 1st. But then payroll taxes are going up. And this GST trick that they've played on Canadians is going to end in February. Then everybody's going to have their credit card bills to pay from the Christmas shopping season, Christmas, Hanukkah, the holidays. That's all going to come at the same time, and the higher CPP fees that are being charged with this supplementary plan.
Yes.
So even more. That's all coming January, February, March, and it's going to be painful for a lot of people who are going to find themselves that they just can't afford their bills, so they're going to fall behind. Then you'll have eviction notices. You'll have credit card companies freezing their lines of credit. Like it is dire. And then, I am convinced that we now entered a recession. And usually, economists say you only feel the recession once you're in it. At the beginning, you don't feel it. You don't really realize you're in it. And I think Canadians will feel it in the next year. And the only people to blame for this is the Liberal government. They've been wholly in charge. Them and the NDP have basically destroyed our economy. It's economic vandalism, a textbook example of it.
Former Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Pallaz came out and stated we are in not even a technical recession, a full-blown recession. And the numbers bear it. Edmonton unemployment, I think we're at 8%. Toronto is 10%. Across the country, I think we're at 6.8. And this is, keep in mind, before the Trump tariffs come in, before Trump starts cutting corporate taxes, and we see a bigger outflow of Canadian money into the U.S., but also the drop in the Canadian dollar. It's dropped 4 cents in the last couple months.
Just wait till food jumps because of that.
All of our food brought in, everything else. We're an import-export nation. We import so much goods, we are going to get slammed inflation-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the winter months, most of us buy groceries that come from outside.
Absolutely. And
it takes time especially in Western Canada, it takes time for producers to switch over. There are lots of greenhouses down in Medicine Hat, and it's becoming a really popular way to grow our vegetables, especially in the summer months. Winter months, but it takes time. This is not an instantaneous thing. So I hope people are prepared to pay ridiculous costs for some of these vegetables and fresh fruit to come from different parts of the United States, because trade outside our country is done in US dollars. So the further we fall behind, the bigger the spread is between the Federal Reserve in the United States and the Bank of Canada here, the more damage we're going to do to everyday Canadians. So all of their goods will go up. And, lots of people buy services from the United States, like all of our Netflix and Amazon Prime accounts, things like that. That's going to become way more costly as people look at their bills for all these services that they're purchasing that come from an American company. And all these bills next year, it's just going to be awful. That's going to be really ugly for people's, the bottom line that people are looking at. Because I have lots of people who tell me that just for day to day, they're reaching into their reserves and they're reaching into their savings to pay for the day-to-day bills, and they're all hoping. This is something you hear Pierre Poilievre talk about all the time. Is he has people come up to him and say, "I don't believe in politicians, but you're the last hope. That's it. If you don't win, that's done." And they'll either, if they can afford it, they will leave the country. I have a lot of people who've told me they're leaving the country or investing outside, or they're saying, "That's it. I'm done. Early retirement. I'll live off the crumbs that I've been given." And people are just giving up on their businesses. I'll just shut it down instead of continuing and put more people out of work. And then it's become that dire, that ugly in the marketplace. And that's not the Canada of 9 years ago.
But this is how the Liberals, this is what also scares me about the debt and the deficits that we're running, is that what do the Liberals do when things go wrong? It's not expand the economy, it's create new programs. what are we, Kelly? Over 40 billion already for this year, for this fiscal.
Oh, for
Because
debt?
we were 60 billion for last year.
It's projected to be 48 billion.
48 billion. Like,
It was a few months ago 39 billion. Now we're looking at 48 billion. An interest rate or interest on the debt will surpass the money we give to the provinces for healthcare for the first time.
that is incredible.
Yeah, debt servicing costs, I was looking at it, I think it's about 12%. So 12 cents off every dollar will go there. But if you look at it, usually historically, at least recently, GST take, like how much the government's bringing on GST, was about equivalent to debt servicing costs. And now it's not. Their debt servicing costs will be bigger than GST. And you look at the growth in revenue, if you were to adjust it for inflation, like government revenues are anemic, which is unheard of. Usually they're always, taking more money from all of us and everyday Canadians. And now I think for the first time, their growth is slowing down, but they're spending more and more and more. $62 billion deficit for this fiscal year is unheard of. It's the biggest deficit we've ever had in the history of Canada.
And I think Global News had a survey that now the majority of Canadians are talking very loudly about reducing their spending next year. And you know what happens, right? That's the fun stuff, right? That goes first. Your dinners, your movies, your nights out, those go. The economy starts to slow pretty quick.
Is greatly propped up by consumer spending.
Yeah.
And when that goes, it'll go. And Tom has a point, like the numbers that just came out for last fiscal year took the government 10 months. Can you imagine doing your taxes 10 months after the previous year? But we just finally got them. A lot of the 61 billion, they were forecasting 40. The line in the sand was 40 billion. They wouldn't go above that, but they went to 61. But it's slowing revenues. We've seen since Trudeau took over, because of higher taxes, almost like big increases every year in money taken in. All of a sudden, that stopped. We're seeing slowing revenues, but increasing spending.
Right. Yeah.
There is hope. We will have a federal election in 2025. Guaranteed.
Regardless, yes.
We will have an election. We're just uncertain which months we may get it in. So voters, Canadian citizens will get their say finally, and they'll be able to pass judgment on the Liberals and the NDP. And then it'll be a reconstruction job for the economy.
Yeah.
And the laser focus, I think, of any Conservative MP, Senator, and Pierre Poilievre will be fixing our economy to get people back to work and bring it home. That's our entire focus. It's not us. We gotta fix our country.
Yeah, very much, as we say, it wasn't like this before Trudeau, and it won't be like this after Trudeau.
That's right.
We'll have big job on our hands, but I look at the caucus, I look at the leader, I think we're up to it.
I think we're focused, we're ready.
We are ready.
All
and
right.
a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone in Edmonton West.
Edmonton Mall. Thank you very much. Kelly McCauley, Member of Parliament for Edmonton West, Edmonton Mall. Also, Tom Kmiec, the Member of Parliament for Calgary Shepherd. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thanve you for a special New Year's Eve edition.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The Ugly. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Hope you both are well over the holidays. And thank you for your time as well. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this program. Hit the bell on YouTube to be notified when new content is made available. We will be back next week with new episodes every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blueprint. Happy New Year.